Hartford, May 14, 87. My dear Miss Gilder, we shall spend the summer at the same old place, the remote farm called Rest and Be Thankful, on top of the hills 3 miles from Elmira, New York. Your other question is harder to answer. It is my habit to keep 4 or 5 books in process of erection all the time, and every summer add a few courses of bricks to 2 or 3 of them. But I cannot forecast which of the 2 or 3 it is going to be. It takes 7 years to complete a book by this method, but still it is a good method. Gives the public a rest. I have been accused of rushing into print prematurely, moved thereto by greediness for money, but in truth I have never done that. Do you care for trifles of information? Well then, Tom Sawyer and the Prince and the Pauper were each on the stocks 2 or 3 years, and Old Times on the Mississippi 8. One of my unfinished books has been on the stocks 16 years, another 17. This latter book could have been finished in a day, at any time during the past 5 years. But as in the first of these 2 narratives all the action takes place in Noah's Ark, and as in the other the action takes place in heaven, there seemed to be no hurry, and so I have not hurried. Tales of stirring adventure in those localities do not need to be rushed to publication, lest they get stale by waiting. In 21 years, with all my time at my free disposal, I have written and completed only 11 books, whereas with half the labor that a journalist does, I could have written 60 in that time. I do not greatly mind being accused of a proclivity for rushing into print, but at the same time I don't believe that the charge is really well-founded. Suppose I did write 11 books. Have you nothing to be grateful for? Go to remember the 49 which I didn't write. Truly yours, S.L. Clemens. Stormfield, April 30, 1909. It seems the letter was not sent. I probably feared she might print it, and I couldn't find a way to say so without running a risk of hurting her. No one would hurt Jeannette Gilder purposely, and no one would want to run the risk of doing it unintentionally. She is my neighbor 6 miles away now, and I must ask her about this ancient letter. I note with pride and pleasure that I told no untruths in my unsent answer. I still have the habit of keeping unfinished books lying around years and years waiting. I have 4 or 5 novels on hand at present in a half-finished condition, and it is more than 3 years since I have looked at any of them. I have no intention of finishing them. I could complete all of them in less than a year, if the impulse should come powerfully upon me. Long, long ago, money necessity furnished that impulse once, following the equator, but mere desire for money has never furnished it so far as I remember. Not even money necessity was able to overcome me on a couple of occasions when perhaps I ought to have allowed it to succeed. While I was a bankrupt and in debt, 2 offers were made me for weekly literary contributions to continue during a year, and they would have made a debtless man of me, but I declined them with my wife's full approval, for I had known of no instance where a man had pumped himself out once a week and failed to run emptyings before the year was finished. As to that Noah's Ark book, I began it in Edinburgh in 1873. I don't know where the manuscript is now. It was a diary which professed to be the work of Shem, but wasn't. I began it again several months ago, but only for recreation. I hadn't any intention of carrying it to a finish, or even to the end of the first chapter, in fact. As to the book whose action takes place in heaven, that was a small thing, Captain Stormfield's visit to heaven. It lay in my pigeonholes 40 years. Then I took it out and printed it in Harper's Monthly last year. SLC.